to see how DSG actually looks coming into this longer split.
And already Sentinels able to lock down the Karma. It's a champion that is very frequently banned, or you attempt to unpair the Karma from the Ezreal, but it does seem like Sentinels will be able to get both. Good chance they match it with Ashe Seraphine, but we'll see if DSG's cooking anything interesting here. They wouldn't have to pick both of them right away, so they can get a power pick in the mid lane if they lock in Orianna as well.
Yep, definitely can go Orianna. Pantheon up and available and is going to be grabbed, which with the Orianna not getting locked, I mean, obviously could still go with that. It is definitely like the highest prio mid laner on the patch right now, is still banned a lot globally. And we could see more of a throwback to what had been so popular in LCS in lock-in, which would be the Taliyah Pantheon. That had been incredibly popular. But right now, Taliyah, you know, definitely is kind of looked at as a tier below the very top mid laner.
It's really interesting. Taliyah lost a little bit of damage on Q and seemingly fell off the face of the earth. But I really want to see the direction that DSG go here by just locking in the Nami. So they'll probably just go Corki Nami here and drop mid. But at the same time, this does allow Sentinels, if they just wanted to go something really basic like Ezreal Orianna, that would be a very good core of just raw power picks for Sentinels.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it gives DSG the opportunity then to potentially, you know, ban out some of these junglers in the second phase if you do actually go for the Orianna here to try to limit that. But I think it makes a lot of sense. It gives you a really well-rounded composition for Sentinels. Of course, if you go Orianna here, you are going to be pretty low on engage, but there's so many champions left early on in Fearless that it's not like it's going to be a problem to grab some engage from jungle or from top lane despite the fact that there's still some bans remaining. Yeah,
especially with DARKWINGS being a control mage player, I feel like it's very smart to lock that in right now. And with the Corki being locked in, now Sentinels, what's interesting about this is with the Pantheon for DSG being so early, they're way into this composition that's going to be outranging them, and if they have first setup is going to be too strong to play against, they need to have a way of engaging or flanking. So I would expect Callme to go with a little bit more of an assassin pick, would be my guess of the direction this composition should go.
Yeah, I mean, both sides, you're going to be banning out, you know, aggressive mid lane picks here on the side of Sentinels. They're already banning the Akali, and then on the other side, you're banning what you believe to be the top physical damage junglers. I wouldn't be surprised to see Wukong getting banned out. I think it's such a strong pairing with Orianna and helps to solve some of the engage issues that they might have. Instead, they're going to ban the Vi, so Wukong still is up and available for Sentinels, and as a result, I kind of feel like DSG didn't really accomplish that much with the jungle bans, because if you're just still walking out of here with Wukong Orianna, you're feeling really, really happy.
And this is interesting because I do feel like post first stand, there's a little bit of a consensus on what the balance is right now, but it does seem like DSG has a bit of a different read by giving over the Karma, matching it with Nami Corki, which is not a pairing that I've seen beat it that often, but if they have confidence with Sajed and Lyonz to be able to do so, all power to them. But just in terms of raw power picks, if this is a first stand draft, you're really favoring what Sentinels has.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it does look very, very strong. They're going to be banning out the Jace here as well. And we'll see what the solo laners are going to be here for DSG. Galio would be fun. Obviously, does give you a lot of dive if they wanted to go that route.
No, they lock in the Ryze, which isn't a power pick in lane, but can definitely try and split push, and it does have the ability to offer a little bit of flanking, so they're going to need to play side lanes very aggressively. And I love the hover right here. So we had Rob Moore on our pre-show, and he was actually mentioning he really hopes that he can see HamBak play Skarner because he loves watching him play it in scrims. He says, I really love HamBak pulling people. So I think the hover is just for Rob, and they might lock in something else, but the tower's getting pretty low. They lock it.
All right, there you go. They're going to be going with the Skarner here, so that is going to get locked in.
Over the Wukong.
Yeah, it's really interesting to actually see that. You know, Wukong definitely a more common pairing, and there is, you know, relatively low range, you know, things like the Ryze, the Pantheon, so you get a little bit more value then than you normally would with the Skarner. Gnar would make a lot of sense, pretty safe here as far as a pick on the top side for impact, and is one of those classics that he can go towards. You know, when you're looking at DSG, they definitely have the ability to play through sides here with the Ryze, with the Pantheon all to try to support that. And it is going to be Aurora for Castle, so going for the counter pick here against Impact in the top lane.
It really appears like Ido and DSG love empowering Castle with counter pick in these drafts. I don't love Aurora with Ryze. I think that's a difficult pairing because if Gnar gets to a point where he can build his wit's end, he'll kind of run the game from the side lane. But in the early laning phase, it does allow DSG to get a lead, and they're going to need to snowball.
And the other thing that you have to keep in mind is even if you do get towards that wit's end, Pantheon can be joining in the side lane, right? You know, and that is not really going to help you out in that way. So they do have the ability to collapse on these side lanes. You know, Aurora versus Gnar, you know, maybe you can be able to handle that in the 1v1, but what if the Realm Warp comes in? What if the Grand Starfall comes in? And I think that's what DSG is going to be looking to do, where Sentinels, it's really up to Impact to survive on that top side. You have Callme Ezreal on the bot side, and you have a really strong 5v5 that is going to be difficult to engage into for DSG.
Currently, I'm a pretty big fan of the Sentinels draft. Their engage is relatively low, having to rely on Orianna, Skarner, and Gnar, all fairly unreliable forms of initiation. But in terms of Sentinels' early laning power, and then also if they're ever first to the zone, their range, the shield, the tankiness, the damage is all really in a good spot for Sentinels.
Absolutely is. Will be difficult for DSG to break in, as you're saying, if Sentinels are to the objective first here. But so much of this game could come down to the lanes. Will this counterpick here of the Aurora on the top side work out for Castle? It's one of those players that really does buy pretty heavily into solo queue data, cares a lot about what the counter matchups, what the data is showing online. These are things that he loves to practice, loves to bring out some of these more unique picks. That's something he did with the Nasus and Split 1 very famously. It's something he was looking to do even last year. You know, while his team was struggling, he was kind of that big bright spot people were talking about.
Absolutely, and doesn't appear to be any shenanigans early game. I'm all tense in the early game after watching Blabber versus Inspired, because for some reason Inspired just goes insane with his invades every single early game, but it does appear like we're starting this with some full clears.
Looks like it will be the case, and going to be very interested to see how this top side goes, but this is the unexpected result for Sentinels in lock-in. So this was 6th, the preseason power ranking. That is the aggregate among everyone on the broadcast. We power ranked them 6th. They actually ended up finishing in 3rd. People will talk about the short schedule with lock-in. People will talk about some of the matchups and this and that, which is true. But at the end of the day, this is a team that did overperform expectation. And it's kind of funny because it feels like, despite that 3rd place finish, immediately everyone went back and was like, yeah, but that's not going to happen again.
It's really crazy. I noted this with Golden Glue teams as well. He had 2 straight years coaching a 100 Thieves team, which at the start of the year, almost everyone ranked in the bottom half to the straight up bottom of the entire LCS. But then back-to-back years took that team to the World Championship. But then every single time he'd come into a new team or a new situation, his expectations don't get to carry over. He always accomplishes his goal, and then it never carries over. So we'll see what happens once again in this spring split with Sentinels.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be really interesting. Golden Glue, you know, one of the things I will say carries over is kind of his reputation as a coach. People have been giving him a lot of credit. You know, this is the history that you're talking about. Has had a lot of very good results, honestly. You know, being able to finish 4th, then 3rd, then 2nd, 5th, 3rd, another 3rd place finish here to start off the year with rosters that are not expected to finish highly. And that is often how people will judge, you know, coaching performance is kind of that.
I saw in by Impact here.
Yep, Impact is going to be looking for Castle, but he's getting incredibly low. The passive is proc there. The wallop does land. Impact going to have to back it off. Castle gets him low and does have that additional sustain through the passive. So Impact's going to be sent back to base. It was a good trade there from Impact, but at the end of the day, Castle has the push, and look at the CS differential. He's up 9 CS, and it's going to be able to get a better buy.
Yeah, Castle couldn't get the wave all the way in, actually wasted about 4 seconds here, but I believe this teleport is so slow with it not being empowered yet, he's going to be able to get back to base. Last thing I'll say on these power rankings, and this can be to Rob Moore specifically, because he was annoyed that I even considered putting them last place. I actually had them higher than all other casters for lock-in. I had an incredibly accurate read on Sentinels.
Where did you put them?
I put them 4th, and they finished 3rd.
Okay.
That's incredibly close. Most people were putting them 6th. I don't remember exactly where I put them. I think I put them...
So you're just making it up.
I think I put them 4th or 5th.
Look, I had the most accurate power rankings.
Exactly where
I don't know what my power rankings were, but for sure.
I remember exactly where I put them in lock-in. I believe I put them 4th or 5th.
I remember exactly where I put them. Maybe 4th, maybe 5th.
In lock-in.
You're really convincing me here.
That's what I do.
Castle TP back towards that top side. HamBak was looking for an angle, but of course there was wards in the river. And Impact is just playing this side brush quite effectively. But look at the buy as they come back to lane here. Castle had that extra gold, so was able to get the Darksteel and boots, where Impact just got the boots and the refillable. So does have a much worse buy at this point.
Move speed really important in that matchup, so both guys prioritizing boots as DARKWINGS gets a good trade in the mid lane. But I also want to pay a lot of attention to the bot side and see if Rahel and huhi can get any type of advantage with this Ezreal Karma, because I do feel like the Ezreal Karma really needs to play off of Prio and get consistent push with Ezreal having his passive stacked up. But there's just too much action in the top lane to look away.
Nice sidestep there from Castle. Dodges everything. The wall up and the boulder toss both miss, which means Impact won't get the reset on it either. And down to the bot lane, they are scrapping heavily as well. Huhi getting incredibly low. Has to flash potentially. Does use the heal. It's going to be okay. And Rahel is just rocking through Lyonz and Sajed. The bubble does land. Sajed is incredibly low. He pops the barrier. He has got a flash out of there as well. All 4 summoners down for Sajed and Lyonz.
Big confidence there by Rahel, knowing he was going to win the extended trade. Once he get 5 stacks on that Ezreal passive, he just clicked forward. They burned all 4 summoner spells from the bot lane, only spent 2 of their own, and Callme gets a solo kill!
Callme gets a solo kill. The observers can't keep up with the action. There's fighting everywhere right now. DSG, at the end of the day, walk away with the advantage. They grab the first blood for their Ryze, and Castle is pushing. He's going to go between worlds. Impact, he predicts the flash with the twofold hex there. Castle with the Mad Life Q takes down Impact.
Think about what Castle has done in this laning phase in totality. The first early trade, winning the all-in at level 3. The second one we saw where he's dodging everything from Impact. That all sets up to him hitting level 6 first and then going for the all-in. But now we're going to watch what Callme pulled off. Just pings level 6, has the spell flux sitting on DARKWINGS, and flashes for the all-in. DARKWINGS does pull the shield back, but just didn't have the stats. Really nice look there. And now Azael, take it away.
Yeah, I mean, this is, he goes between worlds, and he just basically predicts the flash. Like, he was already throwing the Q, it felt like, to that side. Either that or it was just a really quick reaction, but we're back to live. Huhi low again as well. They have the push, though. Rahel pops barrier. Sajed is very low, but in comes KryRa and Callme. Trying to catch up here, can't quite get in range as HamBak played bodyguard for long enough to keep him away.
So that is Realm Warp and Pantheon ultimate down for no kill, used to relieve some of the pressure on the bottom lane. So far, soul lanes by DSG, exceptional, but bot lanes are keeping up in gold, but definitely losing the summoner and pressure war. And I think the scaling on the side of Sentinels is slightly better, so a very close and competitive early game.
I just got to draw your eyes, though, to these buys. We talked about how the bad buy was last time. All he got was a null magic mantle. He didn't really get anything after that. He's down 20 CS plus the solo kill. And a plate as well for Castle. So Castle is out to 700 gold lead here with the counter pick. And this is one of these matchups where, you talked about it, if you can stabilize, if you get enough levels, get enough stats, you hit a point where Aurora can't one-shot you anymore, and Gnar can kind of sustain through the trades. But if you get ahead enough, Aurora becomes so oppressive. And remember, tickets for tomorrow's games and Tailgate are still on sale. Head to Tixter.com/LCS or scan the QR code to buy now, and we will hopefully see you here tomorrow.
Yeah, there was a really sweet tailgate. We did half of our pre-show outside, got a lot of fan questions in. Sentinels gave away a lot of jerseys. They had that jersey trade-in program. Ramor did not give me a jersey because I said I considered putting his team 8th, even though I did not put them 8th. I put them 5th.
Didn't like the consideration. I got some free boba. It was delicious.
It's like a thought crime. Like, I thought we were over that. It's not
what's that movie? There was like that idea, like there's the thought police.
1984.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
KryRa here getting chased down, has his flash. Might have to actually use it, trying to run down towards that bot side. Get a flash off the wall. HamBak flashes to follow. Is going to be able to knock him down. Callme on the way. The bubble does land across Huhi, who is put very, very low. Huhi has his flash. Won't have to use it, though, as Callme will be sent retreating. HamBak looking once more. Still does have the ultimate. Can't quite get in range to find it, but DARKWINGS making the roam, has the shockwave available, and there's no flash on Callme. He's going to try to run for it, but can he get back to the tower to survive? One more auto, but the level up saves Callme, and now the tower shots are going to push DARKWINGS back. Callme gets the level up off of the minion dying to the tower there, and it saves him.
Calculated, surely. Callme never misses those. And now KryRa's back on the map, trying to get the move speed and maybe kill DARKWINGS.
They're looking. Huhi, though, is going to be here, and HamBak's coming in. Going to look for Callme, takes him down. A second kill there for HamBak, who opens up a big lead on the top side.
Wow.
It's another solo for Castle, who goes between worlds and knocks down Impact.
So many individual outplays, leaving this game incredibly close. So Castle, we're gonna have to see how he does that again to Impact. But down in the jungle, HamBak just pushing around KryRa And I believe like KryRa really baited Callme in for that one because he was out. He'd made the miraculous escape with the level up, and they go back in. And this is Impact being equal in levels, but really just jumping in before he's going to have Mega. And Castle pretty routinely just combos him to death.
Yeah, Impact went in too early there for sure. Clearly just miscalculated. Thought he had the ability to get into Mega.
This is crazy. He procs his phase rush. DARKWINGS a little low on mana. Don't even know if he had the W
Look at the level
cooldown.
up.
One auto. The flash auto would have killed if he didn't get the
100%.
level up.
Yep.
Then he takes a church shot, and you think Callme's just fine, but then they get baited with the re-engage once KryRa tries to chase him down. This bottom lane, though, still going in the side of Rahel, so this is a tough game to keep up with.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, there's some very one-sided lanes, you know, going in different directions as Callme going to get caught by the shockwave there. HamBak moving over, but Callme is playing very confidently as the Grand Starfall going to be coming in here. Remember, HamBak has no flash, but does have the Ishtal's impact and could just drive on through the wall and get out of there. That is another Pantheon all down for nothing.
Yeah, and it's also Heartsteel power spike for HamBak. And Impact is just getting wrecked, but they're still trying to get this flashless Ori.
Yeah, we'll see if they can actually get in range. KryRa does no flash, so can't actually close the gap. Impact likely to have to go back to base, though, as Castle will have Between Worlds soon. HamBak continuing this play, just harassing down on that bot side. Sajed can't even get back to the towers. Huhi is just pushing him off of it. Rahel picking up more and more plates. He's nearly up 20 CS himself now on the bot side.
Yeah, the Ezreal is going to become a problem for DSG to deal with, and HamBak sticking around a little bit extra just to get more vision coverage in this bottom side so Rahel and Huhi can continue to play aggressively. One thing I noticed during my scouting of this split was that Sajed and Lyonz have pretty poor early laning stats, and that's continuing here in part because they didn't draft themselves a strong bottom lane, but now they're getting punished for it.
Yeah, they are, and now the TP is going to have to be used
Aurora
by Castle, so that's going to relieve a lot of pressure. Sentinels will just back off.
Whoa.
This was the early proto belt finish, and now Impact's going to be able to push in the top wave, so that relieves the pressure on the top side. That's going to be a wave missed here by Castle up there, so Castle, their strongest member, uses the TP, gets nothing for it, and they're going to lose their dragon anyway.
Yeah, I think I understand the idea of this play. There's been a fair amount of early swapping in NACL where players have been switching lanes before roll quest and getting some big momentum plays off of it from the tempo trade, but this is kind of negative tempo because he didn't get anything out with the teleport. He didn't even greatly delay the resets of Sentinels. Sentinels can kind of take the Drake on the way out.
Yep.
And not to mention, Impact gets a little bit of a get-out-of-jail-free card, clearing a free wave, getting a plate, and reducing that gold disadvantage he had up top.
Exactly. I mean, Impact had a horrendous buy. I mean, now he finishes the Merc Treads at the very least, but he was just on random components and a phage to a fully completed item, right?
You got to trap that lane as long as possible.
Exactly. Castle would have been able to keep him from crashing that pretty easily, or at least threaten a kill if Impact tried to do so. So that is a big deal. The fact that he had to use that teleport to try to prevent the dive from coming through because Lyonz was so low. You obviously need to keep your Corki in it, and Castle felt like that was worth the sacrifice for himself to try to keep Sajed relevant. And Sajed has been a very good team fighter. That has been where he has had his success. It's been much more about the 5v5 than it has really about those 2v2s.
Yeah, and with the MasterCard Power Spike, Sundered Sky, KryRa wants to make a play immediately, trying to capitalize on Impact now that they've swapped back up. But I promise this is a compliment. If you were to pick a top laner to be down 1,500 gold in the game, you'd want it to be Impact, because he's very good at being crafty from deficits to stay in the game and become relevant later in the game.
And because when he's down 1,500, he's probably not going to go down 3,000. And some others will, right?
Usually not.
Exactly. It's one of those things where he's able to stabilize on a lot of these matchups. And now Castle's in a matchup against Orianna where he's kind of just getting zoned out by the ball. DARKWINGS is quite strong at this point. He has his Ludens completed, and you can see now Castle is looking for another reset. So at a strong point in the game, but not in a good matchup, and we'll have to head back to base.
And I think despite all the chaos and all of Castle's heroics in the top lane, this is actually a good game state for Sentinels. And I think this is what we saw a lot in lock-in, was that even if top lane was going one way or the other, most teams were most comfortable playing through bot prio. If you have the bot prio, you can control the bot river, you can start stacking drakes, and it puts you in a good situation in the game. And since it is just the top lane that is behind, jungle, bot support all being ahead for Sentinels, and because they have so much range and so much poke when you try and retake the space, they're just going to try to go for this Infernal Soul as early as possible and are in a pretty good position to do so.
Yeah, they absolutely are. That being said, you know, Castle, if he can get in on a flank, there's a lot of squishy members over on the Sentinel side. You know, it is not a defensive build here for Darkwings. That is Ludens and Lucidity Boots. Ezreal is squishy. Karma is one of the squishiest champions in the game. So, you know, there is the possibility for him to find a really good flank and just 100-0 someone, but Sentinel's doing a great job so far just playing through this bot side prio. They knock down the first tower of the game there. They're taking away more camps, and Callme's in trouble as he gets Gnar'd back into the tower there by Impact. Nice sidestep, and in comes the Grand Starfall. Can they turn this around? The stun's going to land onto Impact, but the tower shots are there onto KryRa. Now comes the Realm Warp. They're going in behind him. Lyonz can tank this up. The minions are coming in, and they are tanking for them. So Impact, I think his time is limited in this one. Darkwings is coming up, and the rest of Sentinels are trying to get there to turn this around, but Impact's got nowhere really to run. He hops back to the blast cone, knocked out of the air like Duck Hunt, but Darkwings has arrived. Huhi's here as well. Can Darkwings find a shockwave? Lyonz is low, may have to flash.
He kills him!
Just holds onto the flash and just dies without even the ultimate being used. And now Huhi is here behind them. They're going to try to turn it around onto the Karma, but HamBak is coming in as well. Darkwings is there, still has the ultimate up and available. Flashing back, the shockwave lands on the Callme. He survives for now. KryRa trying to turn around with a double impale across all of DSG. Spells their defeat. Darkwing survives. Sentinels wipes DSG off the map. They are up 2K and claiming yet another objective.
And it actually all started with a 0-3 Gnar because they sent 4 people and spent 30 seconds cleaning up a rather useless kill, and then it gets collapsed upon by Sentinels. HamBak is huge now. 4-0 on this Skarner, and they take even more control of the game.
Yeah, and KryRa just has not been able to find much effect in this game here. You're on this jungler that has a lot of early ganking power, but it's been HamBak who has been able to keep up the farm, has been able to find more impact. Yeah. It is going to be really difficult to deal with now, getting very tanky. And it feels like, to me, everything started going wrong with that TP from Castle down towards bot side, because that was their real point of pressure that they had on the map. Impact was unable to breathe. And DSG on this one felt like they overstayed on the retreat.
They really did, and just way more damage than Lyonz was expecting with the Orianna, not even having to use ult. I feel like he was saving his ult in case he saw the flash, in case he saw the Orianna ult animation, just never comes up. And then once Huhi's behind them, he just traps Callme and KryRa under the turret, gets Callme super low. HamBak perfectly catching both of them, just the very edge of that Skarner ultimate, and a couple of satisfying Heartsteel procs for double kill on Skarner.
And now they are on that dragon here. It's going to be a fight in the mid lane as Sajed is getting pushed back. The True Shot Barrage will not connect. KryRa going in on a HamBak, and Callme is behind him. He's trying to focus down the dragon. Will he be able to secure this? HamBak looks like he's going to be pushed back, but in comes Impact, and Impact has the Mega ready. There's the Impale. KryRa buffers the Aegis Assault pretty nicely. Castle is here as well. They're going to try to take down the Skarner. They do get the kill. It's a reset and a shutdown onto the Skarner, and DSG do claim the dragon. Darkwings arrives, though Sajed does fall, but Rahel is dead as well. Huhi, Impact, and Darkwing trying to make it happen. A big combo across multiple DSG members. Castle can do nothing. It is an ace for Sentinels. Even though they lose the dragon, they handily win the fight.
And just like that, Darkwings Orianna is off to the races. A little bit of a chaotic start to this fight, though. Look up top. Rahel ends up dying fairly early on in this fight. Sajed and Lyonz kind of just execute him as he's chasing for this fight. And HamBak's bounty gets lost, but within all of this, Impact ends up being a full health Mega Gnar, and Darkwings can clean up when everyone burned the important cooldowns early. Lands a beautiful double shockwave. They have the numbers advantage by the end of the fight, and he cleans up for the ace.
Top rep, holy shit. Legend of Flash.
Top cap?
Top cap.
Impact, he's just back in the game, baby.
He is back, and it's only a 500 gold lead now for Castle. Hasn't really been able to find too much effectiveness as HamBak will claim that blue buff. Rahel walks away with one for himself as well, and HamBak now up 2 levels on KryRa. He's about to hit 11, but still falling quite behind as far as the experience does go. Grand Starfall comes out, as does a Realm Warp. They're going to look for Huhi and Rahel, but looking like they're just going to walk out of this one no problem. KryRa's ultimates just have not been effective this game.
They really haven't. He's had a hard time finding important plays to make. Couldn't really capitalize on Castle's individual advantages top lane, and was unable to bail out the bot lane from their pressure. Can't say many junglers have been good at punishing Ezreal Karma. That's why it's been a meta-defining combination that often gets banned. DSG thought they'd have a plan for it, have been unable to deal with the constant pressure and poke of the Ezreal Karma as well as the Orianna, but here's the fight.
Yeah, Castle goes between worlds, trying to get a big combo down onto huhi and DARKWINGS, and they are in a lot of trouble. DARKWINGS gonna get hit by the tidal wave, and they just get blown to smithereens. Callme pops the ghost, and he is on the chase here for Rahel. Great buffer there on the ultimate by HamBak, but Rahel is just gonna get chased down and knocked down, and now HamBak barely gets to safety. Lyonz can't catch him with the bubble as he burrows through the wall. But it's a big team fight win there for DSG. They are not out of it just yet.
What a massive engage there by Castle and the rest of DSG. If this was 30 seconds later, it would actually slingshot the game exactly back, but Baron hasn't even spawned yet, so it's gonna be a lot of bounty gold, but I feel like Sentinels actually kind of gets a little lucky that that terrible fight happened exactly when it did.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, there's nothing really for them to claim afterwards, as you're saying. You know, if that was after Baron spawn and they get a Baron, it really can change things. But still, a nice team fight win for them on the top side. And Sajed is up 1.4K despite that laning phase going the way of Rahel and huhi. It's Sajed who is really set up for success. Impact's actually ahead of gold, or was briefly there, of Castle just ever so slightly. They're pretty much dead even now at this point. So it's now Sajed who kind of has that burden to be able to perform in the team fights as he picks up a couple big kills after that skirmish.
I mean, definitely a little bit of a caster curse there, talking about how they didn't have an answer to the Ezreal Karma. If the answer is, we're going to just outscale and they succeed, more power to him, because he's going to be a force, especially when that Manamune transfers with basically one more activation. So Sentinels still has to be a little bit careful. They do still have gold leads. They should still be able to set up around Drakes and be fairly effective, but that fight really makes this game more interesting because it was going in Sentinels' favor.
It really was. I mean, it's going to be the mid-jungle for Sentinels to have that big advantage. You know, fully completed Zhonya's, has had the Lyonz obviously for a long time and has a large rod on top. So DARKWINGS is going to be a problem, and HamBak is ridiculously tanky. 2.5 items here, and is working in towards that Kayn and Krooker very likely as that third item, given that it is double AP solo laners, lots of magic damage from Nami, of course, as well. So HamBak going to be very difficult to knock through, and he's just invading here, just pushing straight in. All of DSG is around. They're going to TP in. KryRa in so much trouble, though. Flashes back into the brush, but he's got nowhere to go. The Nami tidal wave comes up to buy a little bit of time, but HamBak still at half health. KryRa down and loses his flash, and this is post 20 minutes. We'll see how much more Sentinels can get.
Okay, HamBak, I see you. He's just an absolute beast right now, throwing that gold lead around incredibly effectively. I was reading his NA-Men interview, and he was extremely confident going into the split, saying essentially that a lot of the NA junglers play the same, and he feels like he can really take advantage. Then in this situation, when they give over an early Pantheon pick, let him drop in the draft phase, don't even take the Wukong that's available, which would be the standard to take with Orianna, and instead goes for the Skarner, it's working pretty well. I mean, the Skarner plus Enchanters is actually just dominating. The move speed Orianna gave him there made him an absolute force.
Yeah, he is looking very powerful at this point. You can tell why Rob Morris said he liked watching him in scrims on the pick, as Castle going forward, going to go between worlds, trying to get the combo in onto Rahel, who is chunked low, but not low enough to threaten a kill. And meanwhile, Sentinels are just taking the dragon. Callme is up, pushing towards that top side as DARKWINGS now close to the death cap, very far ahead here. So really, it's just a trade of HP. Rahel loses a little bit of health, but you get nothing elsewhere on the map to trade back for that dragon.
Yeah, game is definitely on the precipice of sliding all the way into Sentinels' favor. That Drake fight where DSG was able to get the one kill onto HamBak and secure the one Infernal Drake has prevented this soul. And then the fight they pulled off in the mid lane is definitely crucial. Otherwise, this game would be 6,000 or 7,000, and we'd probably just be seeing Sentinels brute force the Baron. But for now, it's still playable on the side of DSG.
Definitely is. Sajed does complete his third item, so getting pretty strong at this point. Elected not to go for the LDR, decided heal cut was a bit more important at this point. But honestly, there's not that much healing, honestly, on the other side, so I'm a little bit surprised he didn't go for the LDR with how tanky HamBak is, how much HP there is going to be on this Mega Gnar. So a bit of a surprise, but we'll see if that does pay off later on into the game. And DARKWINGS, as I said, is going to be very close on this death cap. I don't know exactly how much gold he's sitting on, but has had that for quite some time. And Callme still working towards his actualizer here, so yeah, only about 200 more gold for that death cap.
Yeah, he's sitting on 850 at the moment. He's already close to one-shotting what is not a super mobile team with the Pantheon, Ryze, and even the Nami, if he's ever in range, can kind of just threaten a one-shot on lines, especially once he gets death cap. So DARKWINGS in a very comfortable spot.
I mean, if HamBak gets any sort of CC down, you know, you hit the Ishtal's impact, you hit a good impale, shockwave over the top, Ezreal ult over the top. There's so much power there. They just need that initial CC to hit, and HamBak can kind of just throw himself in with Reckless Abandon because he has the Canic Rooker now completed that he had been working on. So it is really going to be up to Sajed to deal the damage here. So much MR has been purchased by HamBak and the rest of the team.
Yeah, I mean, the story of this game now is really like, can Sajed carry the team fights? Because that 1.7 thousand gold lead, 3-item Corki, we know how well Corki Nami does scale with the Nami buffs as well as the Imperial Mandate. So that's going to be the story, is can he actually... I mean, there's very little MR on HamBak as well, so maybe if Sajed gets a little bit of free hitting in, he might be able to shred through the tank.
Yeah, we'll see if he's going to be able to do that. DARKWINGS now has the death cap, almost level 16, so rank 3 of that shockwave will be very quickly available, and that is going to be terrifying. DARKWINGS, even on experience with Callme, even though Callme has 10 stacks on the row, and Castle's going to be looking for a pick. A little bit of a chunk onto HamBak, but basically just breaks the Canic Rooker and shield, and that's all he really was able to accomplish.
Yeah, I really think Sentinels is trying to slow this game down now. They realize it's not going to be a snowball win, and they really want this Infernal Soul. So they don't want anything bad to happen before that. You can see they're deep pushing bottom lane. They're letting top lane get pushed in, and as long as they don't lose anyone in transit moving between waves here, they'll be okay. The one big fight that did happen was in part because DSG found a window to 5v4 while Sentinels was pushed a little bit too deep in mid lane. And speaking of getting caught in transit.
Yeah, huhi in a lot of trouble here, but the shockwave going to get thrown down on Callme. He has to flash back out, and the teleport's coming in here from Impact. Impact does not have the Mega, but he is going to have to flash back immediately as all of DSG is there and waiting. But look at Castle getting caught. He's in the midst of everyone. Throws down between worlds. Can't finish off huhi. Callme falls on the other side, and Impact's about to go Mega. KryRa will flash and try to run as Sentinels can just turn for the Baron here. It's a 5v3. It's no flash on KryRa, and I don't know how DSG can defend this.
Callme thought he was going to be able to make a big play by catching the Karma, but he does not have the damage, and then HamBak arrived. It appears this is going to be an uncontestable Baron as Sajed is just taking the mid wave.
Yep, not going to be able to do anything about it. No flash, no vision for the jungler. You're going to have to give it up, and now Sentinels very close to taking this first game here. 4,000 gold lead, the Red Bull Baron power play available, and they are still on Soul Point. That Dragon Soul is going to be available here in 50 seconds, and it's going to be tough for DSG to do anything about it.
Yeah, watching this one more time, Callme did sneak in, but he only takes huhi to about 30% health before the shockwave can get over, and then Nard is mini, but he has the super shield from the TP, so he's not in a super high risk of dying here. HamBak catching Castle means the only way out is through a gray screen, and they're able to chase down Callme as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's this Celestial opposition is a lot to burst through for huhi. It was that damage reduction that was there. That plus Mantra E, he had Mikhail's. So it's not that easy to kill him off, you know, if you haven't actually poked off that Celestial opposition first. But look at Ishtal's impact onto Castle. He tries to go in, gets insta-CC'd by HamBak and bursts down, and Castle had a lot of fun in the first couple of levels, but has not been able to find effectiveness in these skirmishes and on these flanks that he's been looking for.
I'm really becoming a larger HamBak fan the more I watch this game, because just even hearing some of the things that huhi was saying about him in interviews during lock-in is the fact that he didn't really scrim for a whole year because he was the 6th man on an LCK roster and wasn't getting practice with either the challenger team or this team.
KryRa gonna try to turn things around, but it's an insta Mikhail's there onto DARKWINGS. KryRa is burst down. Rahel pops the barrier. They're gonna look for Sajed. He's sent Falcon back to the base as Sentinels. They do lose one as Rahel did die, but KryRa gets popped.
I mean, it was looking like they might be able to push for a potential end, but Sajed lands a big one, kind of through the goalposts of people that could block it to get the kill on Rahel. That slows things down, but it is Infernal Soul to just the one Drake. Baron will likely wear off, but Death Cap completed, Void Staff on the way, and still an absolute behemoth of a Skarner for HamBak.
I mean, HamBak only the one death, 6-1-5, has kept his farm up very heavily. almost kept up with the top laners as far as the CS is concerned.
I mean, I'm just loving the trajectory of this player. As we were saying, didn't scrim that much, started pretty weak. The very first series that he had was against DSG's sub-jungler in Kisno, and didn't look good, and that was a very bad first impression for a lot of people that are seeing him for the first time. But by the end of the split, he was finding much better synergy with the team. Huhi really likes him. He's teaching him a lot about the game. Huhi's such a veteran as a support, and they just seem so connected now as a duo.
Yeah, they are looking a lot stronger as Castle's trying to defend this top side tier 2, but Sentinels pushing forward won't be perturbed and are going to be able to knock that down. They're trying to trade for this push on the bot side from Callme, but it is very hard to trade against the Baron buff here, and they're just marching in now, knocking on the doors of this inhibitor tower. Castle can't really wave clear anything. Sajed is being sent over to mid lane to try to defend there. They're going to lose this top lane inhib for sure. And Sajed taking some poke makes it a little bit more difficult to actually defend even the mid lane inhibitor. Definitely don't want to lose that. So now Ryze is back, and we're going to see if DSG can find their moment. Sajed falcons in, pushes Rahel back over the wall. So maybe they can try to look for something now, but the front line of Sentinels is just so beefy, they can't really get past them.
Yeah, especially if it's Sajed who's pushing out Rahel. That means they have a Pantheon and then two magic damage guys in the Ryze and the Aurora, trying to cut through a 4,856 HP Kanik Rookern 175 MR Skarner who gets Orianna and Karma shields.
Yep.
It's just not going to happen.
No.
You're not moving that guy.
I mean, Castle almost, has his death cap, but he's so far away from a Void Staff. Callme is building a Void Staff, but obviously he's miles away from a death cap. You know, they have a lot of problems here. And Sajed did elect to go for the Serpent's Fang, wants the shield cut, which makes sense. There's a lot of shielding. Yeah. But it does mean his Infinity Edge is going to be super delayed. So DSG, it feels like, are very far away from some of the items that they would like to get to try to turn this around. HamBak going to look for the Ishtal's impact. The impact just chasing in onto Sajed. They will be able to disengage and stay safe for now as Callme was pushing out topside. It's DARKWINGS pushing down through bot, and the rest of Sentinels here marching on mid.
Yeah, they're going to have to be a little bit careful while they only have 4 people in mid lane, because a Realm Warp and Pantheon could come in for a flank, but it would be a bit of a desperation play by DSG, so Sentinels just needs to make sure they stay connected.
Yep, Castle going to be looking. Sajed, again, pushing them back. Where he goes is where DSG is strongest. He's still a ways away from level 16. Get that max rank ultimate would be pretty big for the Corki, and Callme now completes the Void Staff, so that's something going for them, but still just very difficult for their soul laners to get in on the back line. They're going to look now with the Realm Warp. Here comes the Grand Starfall. They're into the back line, but it's insta CC on a KryRa. KryRa's got to retreat, but the tether route is there from Karma. The GA's popped already. HamBak flashes forward, grabs one. Castle incredibly low. He's running for it. Sajed flashes barriers. It's not enough. Rahel knocks him down. Callme in the middle of everyone gets one back, but Sentinels wiping DSG off the map.
HamBak nearly died, but is able to survive the rest of that fight, and he keeps catching the Aurora with his Skarner ultimate in fight after fight. They're going to look to try and end this game. They have no Ezreal, but they do have a 4v2.
Yeah, they have Castle and Lyonz to defend. That's all they've got. The wallop does not connect. The boulder toss misses as well. Castle, good sidesteps and movements to stay alive for now. Goes across the veil looking for a chunk, but it's only on impact. He can't even break the shield, and the towers are falling. The super minions are coming in. Castle's trying to run away from huhi, but he's getting focused down. He's going to fall as well. Sentinels play a strong game 1 here in Spring Split. HamBak looking incredible on the Skarner as they knock down DSG.
They knocked him down in the lock-in playoffs, and they've knocked them down here in game 1 of this series. HamBak is my player of the game, but I know I don't control the majority of the vote. That's the lounge. What do y'all think?
Yeah, we vote blocked him, that too.
Yeah. We vote blocked you into all
your vote doesn't matter, we don't need your vote.
We gave it to Impact.
All of us. No, that was HamBak all the way. Yeah, HamBak, he had amazing stats on the Skarner that we will show, and really strong performance from him. But Raz, we also other